Who was a victim of our Red Scare of the J. Edgar Hoovers and McCarthyism and J. Mitchell Palmers. We've had two periods of Red Scares, right? Unfortunately, socialism is popular. Holy shit. How do you keep the people from loving an idea which is, popular? Well, you go to war against that idea. Charlie Chaplin. So he basically, just long story short, he's popular, right? Probably one of the most iconic characters from cinema ever to be created. He was, beloved, and Americans loved him up until around 1940s, the late 1940s. He made this one movie that wasn't The Little Tramp, and then there was a couple other things that was going on. He was having custody battles with his ex-wife, and then there was a paternity battle. So I guess his perfect image was, coming apart. And then the nail in the coffin, the straw that breaks the camel's back is he's a communist, right? Well, he's not really a communist. He's not a communist in any stretch of the imagination at all, right? He's not a card-carrying communist. He didn't embrace communism. There's a couple things. There's two hit pieces here that I'm trying to say, okay, well, let's see if their accusations carry any water. Well, he wins an International Peace Prize, which was from the World Peace Council, which was a communist-led organization. Okay, so winning a peace prize from a communist-led organization doesn't mean it was a communist organization, just communist-led. So that's bullshit. That doesn't mean nothing. Now, he talks about the support for communist dictators. So when it comes to whether or not he was a communist, he denied it, said he's a peacemonger. He supported individual rights. So he himself denied being communist. Are you a communist? No, I am not. I think it's a pretty good indication. Yeah, can people lie? Sure. But it said that whatever love he had for the Soviets, it was just confined to the years against Hitler, and that was it. When everybody, loved Uncle Joe Stalin. But then he said that there was some dinner, and he talked about how Stalin's purge trials, he really liked the purges, something about getting rid of the fifth column, and then something about the Soviet Union being a brave new world. Now, that's it. That's the extent of Charlie Chaplin's communism, right? He was liberal. He was progressive, right? He didn't believe in fascism. He questioned some communism, but not totally, because he was self-made man, right? He made those millions himself. So and then he grew up poor, so he understood the pain and degradation. He says, once you've been humiliated, you never forget it. So I'm trying to look for some other things here. In the film industry, 300 people were blacklisted because of the House of Un-American Activities Committee. That's the notorious, McCarthyism. You're a red. No, you're a red. Everybody's a red. And then what's going to happen is he's going to be so shamed. He's going to get, had a bad movie. And then because of these communists, being thrown these accusations of him being a communist, he's going to leave the United States. He's going to leave the United States forever. So this is 1947 or so, and then he leaves the United States, and he doesn't come back until 1972. So we didn't have Charlie Chaplin for the last 30 years of his life. And then I saw like some old Academy Award thing with a Lifetime Achievement. So eventually he comes back, and they eventually award him, a Lifetime Achievement Award, and everybody give him a standing ovation once he did that. But my God, they went after him like he wasn't, they fucking roasted him. They come after him, and it was like, nobody could be more iconic than him. And so basically they're saying like his rise from stardom down to, nothingness was like one of the most dramatic ups and downs ever. And that's, that's it. There is nothing else here that says anything. He didn't like poverty, right? But he also liked individual rights. And then it just, just because, like, he admired what the Soviet Union were doing something interesting or doing something on him. I don't know. It's so stupid, okay? It's like, are you a communist? No, I'm not a communist. Yeah, you are. You're a communist. It says he wouldn't label Stalin a dictator. He said he wouldn't play Napoleon because he didn't like dictators, but then when they asked him if Stalin was one, he was like, well, it hasn't been settled what the word means. Okay, maybe he had a fondness for Stalin that he shouldn't have had. I don't give a fuck about Stalin. But I would consider myself a socialist, a social anarchist, an anarcho-socialist. So I'm combining two, powerful strains of human history, really, but American history too. So they're sitting there saying that he couldn't call Stalin a dictator. He kind of looked up to Stalin. He even said something about liking the purges. And then that seems to be it. And that the Soviet Union was a brave new world, So he made the great dictator. He shits all over Hitler. And yeah, Stalin was a military partnership at the time. But that's it. This is it. That's as far as, they can go. Was he organizing people? I mean, if the charges, are you a communist? If they tried to charge me with, I'm not a communist. I literally am not a communist. And I've thought about this. And so there's the land reform in Bolivia is what convinced me to not be a communist. They said that everybody's a communist until they get their own thing. So the land reform in Bolivia was everybody got their acre of land, and then once everybody had their acre of land, then it was like, no, this is my land, you get to keep yours. So that's sort of my balance. I see a synthesis between the two. Everybody's got a chunk of land. Okay, well, you could raise your own food now. Now I don't feel so bad for you. You got the opportunity. You could do something. Land is revolutionary. And so the land reform, you would think it's socialistic, right? Because it's government handing land out to the poor. But it's actually anti-communistic because once the poor have something for themselves, then they don't, want to join a collective farm and raise a bunch of hay for the state and then let the state pass the hay back out. So I just believe that there's in between, right? You have pure laissez-faire capitalism, then you have absolute controlled ownership by the government, and they decide everything. I think there's a happy medium, in between the two, and it doesn't. I don't even think it's even controversial. I think it's just obvious. But because we went to war against an idea, because for 50 years we were engaged in this Cold War, Charlie Chaplin got caught up in it. He makes one of his last movies was called Limelight, and it was about a Hollywood star who lost his popularity. So it was totally autobiographical, and then it's supposed to be like some sort of cult following. Monsieur Verdot, that was the second to last one before Limelight, the ones that was in America. He goes to Europe and he's got all this, he's doing all this stuff in Europe. But Charlie Chaplin was one of the biggest, casualties of the Red Scare, the second Red Scare in the United States. And what the fuck else could Charlie Chaplin have done, for America if he had been allowed to work for the last 20 to 30 years of his life? So that's fucking depressing. That's shitty when you find out this is what our society did. And who are these people? Who are these? There's McCarthy, and he's a piece of shit. But what about all these other nameless assholes, right? He kind of had a Nixon moment where he was answering questions to the press, and then he was like, all right, now y'all can start your butchering. So he was just getting attacked from, every which way, and it's like people just feast on the blood. I saw this one ad, and I'm going to end it on this, but I saw this one cartoon, a political cartoon about Princess Diana. Princess Diana just got killed, and somebody was holding the newspaper, and they said, God, I hate newspapers because you get ink all over your hands, and the caption was, that's not ink, that's blood. So, Charlie Chaplin, that's one of the biggest casualties of the Red Scare, so fuck you, motherfucker. Fuck you hating motherfuckers. Fuck you haters, okay? He was right. Charlie Chaplin was an icon, cultural icon. And you motherfuckers took him out, right? Took him out. And for what? What was the point? Because he thought differently? You suspected he may have thought differently? That's a good thing. What about individual rights? Don't we have, as an individual, can't you choose to be a communist? Do we really believe in individual rights? Or is that just some shit we say? So, Charlie Chaplin, the great dictator. I don't know how else to end this. So,